Thanks, Frank. Some things never change. Boy, I don't know where to start. I have to admit, part of me, I don't know if embarrassed is the right word. You know, I've always taken pride in how I played and work ethic and things of that nature. And I had always dreamed of playing pro football, no different than any other kid across the country. When I had a baseball glove in my hand, I dreamed of playing Major League Baseball. When I had football in my hand, it was football. And all I dreamed about as a kid was being Archie Manning or Roger Staubach, who were my favorites. I never dreamed of being in the Hall of Fame, never dreamed of having my jersey retired, never dreamed of Pro Bowls. Yes, did I dream of playing in the Super Bowl? Absolutely. I often would dream about what it would be like to run out of the tunnel and people cheer your name and you know, and as I say all that, all of the dreams that I had have come true and then some. I didn't dream of playing 18 straight years without missing a game. That never crossed my mind. Now, I always wanted to play and play every week. I wanted to play in preseason. I wanted to play. I didn't necessarily want to practice, didn't necessarily want to sit in meetings, but that was part of it. And so as I stand before you, you know, I can honestly say that everything has come true and then some, and not many people can say that. And to have Frank and Mike and Ron and Bob and Mark say all these nice things about me, don't get me wrong, you know, I'm extremely thankful and blessed, but it's a little embarrassing. Frank was a great player. Mike was a great coach. The best GM in all of football. Yes, I'm biased too. Ron Wolf. I could go on talking about these guys. I understand that this night is quote unquote about me, but I would choose to say it's about us because it really is. You know, I've always thought that being a quarterback, you get way too much credit. You probably get a little more of the blame. We shouldn't be labeled with wins and losses. A pitcher maybe, not a quarterback. But yet we do. I can assure you that my success is strictly based upon these guys behind me, the other teammates that I play with, the fans. You know, I just had to work hard and do all I could do and rely on these guys. And that's why I'm here today. It has nothing to do with me. But again, I'm extremely honored. And that's probably an understatement. By the end of the night, you know, I think we're all probably going to be tired of hearing Brett Favre stories. But I'm extremely grateful for first of all the opportunity that Ron gave me. One of the only regrets I have is that I didn't get to play with Mike longer, which I can put that blame off on him. But he and I both know, because we've talked about this numerous times, that had we had a chance to play and he coached me for more years, I think there would have been, I truly believe there would have been more championships. Even though it's hard to get there, it's hard to go back and it's hard to win them. That's not taking anything away from what we accomplished. I wish I'd had a chance to play longer with Frank. If he wouldn't have been 6 or 7 years older than me, we probably would have. But the things just came in. It was like the stars fell in line at the right time. And I have people tell me all the time that, how did a boy from South Mississippi come to Green Bay and play in that cold weather and play well? You know, Bart Starr did it and did it quite well. If you truly love to play the game, you play it no matter what, just regardless of conditions. And you got to have a great cast, and I had a great cast, and that starts from the very top to the very bottom. And I'm thankful for that, and I'm thankful to be here tonight. So.
I don't get off that easy.
Questions?
Did this feel like a long time coming?
No, not really. Again, I never lost sleep over thinking about, will they put me in the Hall of Fame? Will they retire my jersey? Because I go back to what I said initially, that was never on my list. Is it a great honor? Absolutely, it's a great honor. But I didn't wait by the phone for Bob or Mark to call me. The body of work that I did was not perfect by any stretch, but I felt like it spoke for itself. And I'm not saying that from it spoke for itself to get me into the Hall of Fame. That was not for me to decide. What I'm thankful for is I had an opportunity and I made the most of it. Again, not perfect, but I made the most of it. And you know, it's like when people say, you know, is he the greatest player, or who is he in the top? I could care less about that. I really, you know, if I sat around and worried about if they placed me in the top 10 of all time, or will I be in the Hall of Fame, or will I get my jersey, then you know, you worry yourself to death, because not everyone believes what the next guy believes. And I believe that what I did speaks for itself, and I'm proud of that. That's good enough for me.
Brett, how emotional will that be for you tonight, going out on the field with selling out in 4 hours?
You know, I don't think it really will be that emotional, and I think this is, and Mike said this, I think it's more of a celebration. It has, driving over here just now, I mean, it had a feel like that we were playing a game. And I think it'll have that feel to it throughout the night as we celebrate. This is a celebration, and I think for not just me, it's for all of us. Because these guys behind me definitely had a hand in, a big hand in my success. And to me, it's about all of us. And I don't see any sad moments. I mean, this is, I'm ready to tee it up. You know, I mean, I'd much rather do that than wear this, trust me. And I think these guys feel the same way. And I'm just going to kind of have fun with the night. I really am. Now, I hope I don't boo-hoo and cry, but I really hope I don't. But if I do, the heck with it, you know. So be it.
Brett, in all the years you were down here doing these news conferences, when you said goodbye to your retirement, you did boo-hoo and cry. Once.
You made it sound like it was like 12 times.
But I think that's what people connected with you. You wore your emotions on your sleeve.
Absolutely. Well, they'll say I keep them in check. Then I didn't keep them too well in check. Actually, I didn't know what I was doing. You know, I think the advice that I've gotten from people in regards to this night is to be yourself. Will that be read something off of a piece of paper or a teleprompter? I don't know. Do I have that in case? Yes, but more than likely I just go off the cuff and just speak from the heart. I know what I want to say. The question is, how do I say it? And for me, I've worried myself sick thinking about how I do that, when probably that's the easiest thing I'll do. And I don't know what that will be. I really don't. But I think, much like the way I played, who knew what was going to happen?
The way that the fans reacted to your departure, what does it mean to you that 70,000 or about 70,000 fans in about an hour and a half snapped up tickets, bought tickets to tonight's
I was absolutely in awe when I got word that it sold out in an hour and a half or 2 hours. And my youngest daughter, who just recently turned 16, and I'm sure tonight you'll hear some of these things again. But I thought, you have to know my daughter. She's really shy. She's timid. She doesn't get caught up in, she'd rather stay home and watch TV than go to the ESPYs or come do this. And she comes home from school, and I'd already heard the news that they had sold so many tickets. And I wasn't going to say, hey, Breeley, guess what? But she comes home, and uncharacteristically, she says, hey, Dad, did you hear they sold 67,000 tickets in an hour and a half? And I said, yeah. She goes, they must really like you. And for her, that's saying a lot. But it really, it says a lot about the whole situation. If there were ever any doubts prior to tickets going on sale, they're not anymore. And what a way to show that you're welcome back into the family. Just what an honor. And I'll be honest with you, and I mean no disrespect by this. I am more honored by that than by the Hall of Fame induction in itself. And I think that is such a tribute to the fans. And that's why Green Bay is Green Bay. Simple as that.
Brett, thinking about the fans tonight, obviously their interest, but that moment when you were able to reconnect with them during the ceremony, how much have you thought about that moment? What are your expectations for that? How meaningful that was for you?
Well, it's very meaningful. How you portray that is the key. But again, instead of me worrying about it, I think you just let it go. You tell them how you feel, and you be genuine. And honestly, that's the only way I know how to do it. To me, I don't really have a message in the speech. That's not really me, other than the people who were important to me in my stay here. The obvious people, coaches, administration, definitely the players. But there's so many people within this building that people don't know and would not know their names that are very important to me and are essential to me being here before you right now. And the fans, and the other point is the fans. I think there was really a connection. Maybe, I think at this point, we all believe that there was definitely a connection, and we saw that with the ticket sales. We see that today. It's got a game atmosphere. There was a connection, and I think the players and the people who've been a part of this organization can honestly say that there is a connection with the fans here that you can't get elsewhere. And look, I played elsewhere. It was an awesome feeling to come back here as an opponent, to witness what this is like for the other team. And I had a newfound respect, which is hard because I had a lot of respect for this place anyway, to see it from that perspective. And even though I was shaking in my boots when I came out of the tunnel, there was part of me that was like, damn, this is impressive. Tough, but impressive. And it is. And Mike can say that. He came back. You want to win, but it's like, wow, man, you're up against a lot. And it's just a special place. And I want to relay that message to the people tonight. And coming back, how they've opened their arms it's not surprising. It really isn't.
Brother, this is all over with. What do you think your future involvement will be with maybe coming back here or just things for the organization?
We haven't discussed that. How much I'll come back, I don't know. I'll say this, that, and I know you have kids. Our 16-year-old plays volleyball, and if I had 2 other kids, I don't think I could do it. Following them around is it's not like it used to be. It's a year-round job, and the things that you do for your kids, right? We'll do anything possible. So maybe we can get a volleyball tournament up here one weekend, and maybe Mark could set that up. That's the least he could do. But I don't know what, I don't know. We haven't really talked about it. I'm thankful that I was invited back for this ceremony tonight and in November, and not to change the subject, but I'm hoping that Bart Sr., I've got my fingers crossed that he'll be here for that ceremony, and Bart Jr. has promised me he's going to be here, that we're getting him in tip-top shape. So I'm looking forward to that. What happens in between, I don't know.
What do you hope fans remember most about you, all the fans sitting up there and watching this?
One more time.
What do you hope they remember most about you when they think about Brock Favre?
Well, it'd be interesting if you went out and asked. I'd kind of be interested to hear what they say too. I mean, you'd probably have a potluck of answers. But for me, and again, some of this will be redundant, and you'll hear it again tonight, but I know we're here because of football. I understand that. I think what I did was pretty good. I think it was fun to watch. It wasn't always great, but it was fun to watch. But a good man who has definitely made a lot of mistakes, but I think what people relate to me is the genuineness and just real. I'd like to think that when they look at my career or watch me play, that they thought that's the way I would do it. If I could play, I would do it that way. And he's not polished in his interviews, but you know what? I wouldn't be polished either. And he's not polished in the way he plays. But I don't want to say I took pride in that. That's just the way I was. And I wish we would have won more games. I wish we'd have won more Super Bowls. But you know what? I did all I could possibly do. And it wasn't great all the time, but I know it was everything. And I don't look back and hold any regrets from that end, because I know I did all I could do. I just wish it would have been a little bit more, but it was all I could do, and I think people genuinely appreciate that.
From your time as a player, when they have those alumni weekends, Don Hudson would come back and tell the stories of the Lambeau era, and Mark, and those players would come back and talk about the greatness of the Lion era. Have you thought about moving forward, to hold on to that legacy of what you guys did in the established franchise?
Well, I haven't really thought a lot about it. And I think as time goes by, that will become more and more important. I found that, much like all of us, I'm sure, and I don't want to speak for everyone, but as you get older, you find that things that you thought really mattered at a younger age don't matter at all. Things that you worry about at 21, at 45, you're like, oh my gosh, what an idiot. And you're kind of worried about things that are of importance that day or that week. And you don't really think about legacy and long-term things until later on. And what we did, I know, is very special. It's not 4 Super Bowls, but in my mind, it's equally as important because, as Bob said, and some of the others, a resurgence, if you will, of this organization. It was always really a great organization, but it just kind of got, I don't want to say boring, but everyone was sort of used to just being okay at best. And everyone was living, I heard the Lombardi years, the glory days, I heard that so many times because that's what you had to hold on to. And taking nothing away from what those guys did back then. Really, if anything, it's much respect to them that's all you had to talk about. For us to be able to be a part in turning that around, and all of a sudden now you're just kind of used to winning. And the fear is that you don't get too used to winning. You stay hungry, and that's the key. That's what Mark is up against. But I take pride in that everyone's kind of used to winning now. It's not a bad thing. We were the ones who kind of started that off.
Right, what was it like last night or whenever you came in? And then just going around Green Bay today, yesterday.
You know, it's funny because I got in late. Mike was mad. He blamed Frank for it. Some things never change. But we actually came in from LA. We got in late, went right up and got to see all these guys. And it really didn't hit me. It was great to see them, but it didn't have that like back where it started type until I walked into the tunnel, you know, last night. And I was telling Aaron, when I walked in, like coming in from the field up the tunnel, took a left, went into the double doors. It was like I never left, and it was really it was a great feeling. It was kind of weird because I'd been here for a couple of hours, had just walked off of Lambeau, but it's kind of funny how things are triggered. But then it was kind of like a sigh of relief almost. Staying in the Radisson, Lord knows how many times we've done that, you know, and I almost felt like ordering me a cheeseburger and fries, and as I did before every game. But it started kind of settling back in as being normal again.
But if your dad and Reggie could be here tonight, what would they say about you and your career?
Lord only knows what my dad would say. It probably wouldn't be good enough, you know. Hell, you know, I thought he should play 4 more years, or who knows. I know he would be proud. I say that sort of jokingly. And the same thing with Reggie. Reggie gave me Reggie was phenomenal. The greatest player I've ever played with. And that's saying a lot. I played with Deion Sanders in Atlanta, played with tons of great players here. The greatest player I ever played with was Reggie White. The man could change the game. All you had to do was just chant Reggie a few times, and the left tackle, the right tackle was in for, you know, a world of hurt. But he was also a great leader, and you know, I don't know what I think. Reggie would say, soak it in. And one of the things that he told me after he retired, he said, I'm telling you, one thing you're going to miss is not football. And I thought, he's crazy. I haven't missed football. I've missed Mike chewing my butt, rooming with Frank, you know, bus rides. And we used to have a good time cutting up with all the coaches. We never picked on Mike, but we were able to pick on some of the others. And that's what I miss. I don't miss 3rd and 15, you know, in the Metrodome, and we haven't won a game there in 8 years. I don't miss that. I miss the camaraderie with the guys. I miss the things what Reggie told me I would miss. He's right. It's less about the game and more about the people.
A couple more questions.
When you talk about those people, you said last week that it was the perfect storm with Mike and Ron and Reggie and all of these things. When you look back on that year, though, is it remarkable that all those people came together and made this team do what it did and helped you do what you did? I mean, are you just...
Well, remarkable is one way of putting it, but I think it happens, you know. I remember not that long ago, but Washington put together kind of a who's who of talent. If you remember, I think there was Bruce Smith and Deion Sanders, and there was a lot of guys. And I think Baltimore has tried that. And I may have the teams wrong, but then they go 8-8. They just we were such a good team, not because we were so great individually. You know, I'm here today, but back then, Mike had thought about making a switch numerous times. I knew that, so I wasn't all that then. We were made up of a bunch of guys who just honestly would love to play, and we'd love to play together, and it just happened to be a great fit. But the reason it was a great fit, and he will never, never take the credit, is because of Ron Wolf. Isn't the mark of a great GM a man who can make it fit, find those guys? They don't have to be star players, but they have to fit what we're trying to do. I didn't know what we were trying to do. I didn't understand what 72X shallow cross meant. You know, Mike, he called the plays and tried to find out what worked. He made it work. It took time. But Ron had to find the guys that fit. Frank Winters is a perfect example. He'd gotten lost in the shuffle. He wasn't drafted. He followed Marty Schottenheimer around. He's a deep snapper. No one knew who he was. He was a Plan B free agent. They don't even have that anymore. And now he's in the Green Bay Packer Hall of Fame. That's something that Ron Wolf saw, as well as so many other players that I don't want to say were cast-offs, because he was able, it was a melting pot of so many different personalities and different characteristics, but it sure worked.
Final question.
In your career that sticks out in your mind that kind of sums up your time as a Green Bay Packer?
Well, boy, that's a tough one. Yeah, I do have a lot. I do have a lot. And it sort of runs together after a while. You know, I think there's not really one particular moment. I think for really us, when we lost in Dallas, it seemed like we lost every year for a long time. There was one particular time when Ron, on the sidelines, we were in old Cowboy Stadium, and he may remember better than I, or we both actually maybe don't remember all that well, but he came over, and it was a tough loss. I think it was one of those that we almost won. Almost won. There was like one where we got blown out, but we were really close, and they were good. It may have been, you know, I think we lost maybe 3 years in a row there or something. It seemed like that. And Ron came over, and Ron, he said more tonight than he's probably said in a year. But he said, we're going to get these guys. You know, I don't remember verbatim what he said, but it was kind of like, damn, Ron's talking. You know, it was E.F. Hutton, you know. But that was kind of, to me, I didn't really want to play Dallas again. I did, but I didn't. You know, I wanted them to have a couple of injuries maybe and take a wrong turn or whatever. But we were so close, and I didn't know how close we were because the next year we were there. But that was kind of, we just kind of got beat up. We were so close, and we just were hungry. And I'll say this about Mike, and I'll say a lot of stuff tonight, but Mike, I think the world of him as a man and as a coach. One of the things that he was so great at doing, he was really great. He was great at chewing my butt too, by the way. But he was so great at making us believe we could win against anyone. And I say that because I played 20 years, and long after Mike had left, I remember sitting in meeting rooms, whether it be here or elsewhere. And as I got older, I started seeing things like a coach. I'd been around as long as a coach. In fact, some of my coaches were younger than me. And I remember sitting there, and I'd be looking at the other team's roster or their record, and I knew all about them. And I would think to myself, we don't stand a chance in hell against this team. And I was right. But I wouldn't tell anyone that. I would get in the huddle. I would, at practice, say, look, hey, we can beat these guys. And I started thinking, I guess that's what Mike did, you know, because I believed it. I'm like, damn, I think we can beat them. And then, you know, you play long enough, you start thinking, I don't know. But the mark of a good leader, good coach, great leader, is one that can make you believe. I mean, it's one of there's other things too, but he made us believe we could win those games and we could beat anyone. And I think that was a huge part of our success as well.
Thank you, Brett.